We have just had a second test match of 5 over in India in Vizag. I'm not 100% sure of the pronunciation. Another seriously good test that went the best part of 4 days. Another good cricket wicket. Plenty of runs got scored. Plenty of wickets got taken. Plenty of stuff to talk about. How much of it did you get to watch, and what are your kind of initial, your initial kind of sum up thoughts from that second test?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch as much of this test as I did the Hyderabad one, but I caught up on all the highlights and saw bits and pieces on some of the mornings. But I think we spoke about it in the first test review of how the Indian batters that got themselves in didn't go on to make a big score, and that seemed to be the main difference in the kind of their 2 innings this time round. Obviously, with Jaiswal's double century, 209, he was incredible, wasn't he? I mean, we saw glimpses of it in that first test, and he's going to be some player, that's for sure. And obviously Shubman Gill in the second innings scoring a century too, not to be met. And on the flip side of that, no one from England scoring a century. But I wasn't too disheartened with how England went about it. I think I saw a stat saying that was their highest 4th innings total ever in India, 290 odd or however many it was. So they battled on till the end, and they have shown that they have got credentials to compete with this Indian side. I know that they were missing Jadeja, they're obviously missing Kohli and KL Rahul. However, there are definitely positive things that can be taken from an England batting perspective. They just didn't cash in this week is probably what I would say. I don't know if your thoughts were any more specific on that front. You probably saw a lot more of the test than I did.
I think, to be honest with you, I think you probably summed it up really well. I think the first 2 tests have been separated by one guy going on and scoring a ridiculous score. And that has been the difference of the team. Nobody else contributed in that first innings for India. And I know you can't, this is complete hypotheticals, but you take that double 100 away, actually, the scores are just exactly the same. Similar to what they were in the first test. If you took Ollie Pope's double 100 away, they were pretty much identical the whole way through. And you would have ended up with a real, not to say that these tests were boring, but you would have ended up with a real kind of toe for toe, slogfest, just excitement, down 1 wicket to win, 1 run remaining, that kind of thing. Amazing innings, and to say they've unearthed the gem, I think is I guess is true at the end of the day. I mean, they've stuck a young lad in there that they've picked up in the IPL, and they've thought he'll do a job, and he's taken that opening position and he's made it his own. I don't see people like Shubman Gill coming back into this team now and kind of going, well, I'll do it. I don't see KL Rahul kind of going back up to the top of the order now. It's kind of Jaiswal's job. I saw a tweet earlier today, and I can't remember who it was from, but they kind of summed it up, what I think probably what actually is happening in India right now. And India have got a mindset, they've got an attitude here where they've got everything to lose right now. If they lose this series, it's almost certainly worse than their World Cup. It's almost certainly worse than the World Test Championship. And if they win it, India have won a Test series in India. Great job, well done. I mean, everybody knew you were going to do that anyway. England, on the other hand, looking completely past the Bazball mindset, which makes them totally unpredictable, which must be so difficult to captain against and understand as to what's going to happen next. They're going out there with a completely free hit. They've got 25 days of free hit cricket, because if they lose in India, everyone's going to go, well, we all thought you were going to lose anyway, lads. Well done for kind of making it 4-1, but we kind of thought that was going to happen anyway. And if they go out there and win, they're absolute heroes. But there's no pressure on them to do it. I'm so interested. I don't even know whether it's kind of filtered down so much through the domestic side of things. But have you had any experience yet where you've come up against a captain and they've made a decision and you've just gone, why the bloody hell have you done that? Like Rayan, for example, last night going in as the night watcher or night hawk, whatever you want to call it, and he's gone out there and just like tried to twat a couple of fours about, and you're thinking, what? How am I meant to set a field to this? Like, what are you going to do next, Stokes? I don't know. It won't take long until it filters down, but it's great. It's great stuff.
Yeah, that was particularly comical. Actually, I remember the penultimate over. I think did Crawley take a single to be back on strike or something like that, and the commentators were like, "Oh, shouldn't have done that. Should be facing as many dots as possible, like protecting the batter." And then in that final over, they scored like 10, didn't they? In the last over of the day, it was just hilarious. He's like, he clearly still trying to score runs, and Zach Crawley isn't bothered about running a quick single to mid off either. Like, score runs, that's very, very clearly the mentality, and the actions are matching up. So yeah, Night Watchman no longer. It's all about the Nighthawk, passed down from Stuart Broad. But I can't remember many occurrences where I've been really kind of struck back thinking, oh my word, what is that decision like? All of a sudden, this seems like it's a lot easier than it should be, for instance. Or it's, I guess, I don't know, something that you're not... you play so much cricket and things are very predictable with the fields that are set and all things like that. So, yeah, I think I would remember if there had been something completely out of the norm. So maybe it hasn't properly filtered down. But I know, obviously, with the way that John Lewis wants the England women to go about it, he's quite similar to the Bazball mentality in terms of just trying to be really aggressive and playing quite freely. So whether we see that over the course of the summer filter down a little bit more, I guess that'll be one to kind of monitor. But it's just always so entertaining, isn't it? I talk about it all the time, but it is.
Yeah, it's putting Test cricket back on the map again, which is fantastic. Stokes didn't have the greatest day today. I don't know whether you saw his attempt for that single off the bat of Ben Foakes. To say he was, I don't know. Maybe the knee hasn't got the sprint in it. I'm not sure. Maybe it looked like a good single to me, to be fair. And he was ball watching a little bit, trundled through, and was probably the final nail in the coffin, really, for England's run chase. But his general captaincy throughout it, with the field placements, with the plans that he set up for our spinners, and Matt has asked a question from the Patreon about the fact that, like, how well our spinners bowled. Does that change India's mindset going into the third, fourth, and fifth test? Do they actually prepare flatter pitches? Because that's probably going to suit their bowling attack a little bit more. But maybe we'll talk about that later on. Creative field placements, almost like forcing the batters to play a specific shot. And I think that was ultimately Jaiswal's downfall on that 200 when Jimmy got him. It's just so interesting to watch. It's refreshing. It's not at 4:00 in the morning. It sucks, but it's so refreshing just to see us actually do well.
Yeah, 100%, especially in the subcontinent as well. Like you say, against India, who have been up there as one of the best teams in the world for however long in their own conditions. We know how difficult it is. So for England to kind of be certainly looking more proactive in the way that they're going about their business is, yeah, as you say, entertaining and a good for the viewership side of it. And you obviously mentioned Jaiswal, but Shubman Gill as well, playing that reverse sweep, I think it was, that came about as a result of Stokes changing the field. And yeah, I guess just really backing his spinners, rotating them quite nicely, and I guess just trying to fill them with as much wicket-taking confidence as they could get. They were obviously backed up really well by Jimmy in this test too. He's for 41 years old. He's an incredible asset to the England seam attack. Yeah, he just keeps on going. It's crazy.
There will be 18-year-olds out there that would look at James Anderson and think, I wouldn't mind looking like James Anderson. Like, he looks good for 41 as well. Like, I know he's kind of like bleached the top of his hair, but and you'd think that most blokes at 41 years old would probably have given up on that kind of stuff. But he's still just turned up in India with a little bit of a tinge in the hair, and he's gone, nah, I'm going to look good doing this as well. Like, yeah, I mean, what an athlete. And maybe maybe it's a conversation for another day, but you could come up with a real argument to say that he's got to be one of the greatest sports stars of the 21st century, across everything. Like, and maybe that's something to talk about someone else. And I don't know how we're going to quite quantify James Anderson to like LeBron James or Tom Brady or Lewis Hamilton, but it could be something to kind of have a little chat about, because what a guy. Shoaib Bashir made his debut. I thought he bowled pretty well throughout. I didn't think our spinners were great again, but I don't think we're going to get greatness really from them. Like, I think because they are so green, we are going to see the spells where it's too full, and we are going to see deliveries where it's too short. And I think overall they probably did bowl a little bit better than what they did in the first test, which is encouraging with another 3 to go. Joe Root, on the other hand, though, I know maybe other hand isn't the right way to describe it, bearing in mind he had his like pinky finger blown off, didn't he? Stood at first slip. He looks like he's really struggling. For a guy that scored the most number of runs for an England player in India, for someone who's going to go past Alistair Cook, for somebody who's gone through all those years where he's averaged like 80, 90, 100 in Test cricket, looks really out of form. And that, firstly, it's sad from an England perspective, and secondly, it's worrying as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually listening on the radio on Saturday morning, so day 2, when he came into bat, and then Bumrah came on to bowl straight away, because obviously that matchup is what Bumrah's got him 8 times, 9 times now, I think in Test match, at least 8.
Hasn't he? Didn't he go past, or was it Stokes now that's beaten Alistair Cook's record for the most number of times he's been out by an Indian bowler? I'm not sure. I think it might be Bumrah on Stokes, but the fact that Bumrah's got Stokes and Root on toast isn't great, is it, for us?
Yeah, not ideal at all, and especially how he got his pad blown off, didn't he, in the first test?
Yeah.
With Bumrah's the one that came back in, and that, well, just talking about Root here has just triggered me to think of that delivery to Ollie Pope, thinking about the ball coming back in. Anyway, he was obviously sending it. He's going away from Joe Root, and Root was. You could tell the way that it was being commentated on. I was obviously listening on the radio. It just sounded like his feet weren't really moving because he was expecting the one to come back in. So he was very wary of what Bumrah's ability and capability is, rather than just backing his own game. It very much sounded like. And then he snicks one behind, and you can hear him on the stump mic being like, "Oh no!" So it's like, yeah, it feels like he's in a little bit of a trough, isn't he? So maybe this 2 weeks, and as long as his finger's all right, has come at a good time for him. And from what I saw very briefly, the innings that he played in the second innings was a little bit peculiar as well. But was that because of his finger and how much he was kind of gritting through that? I guess I'm not sure, but it's certainly not great for England as a whole, knowing how much we've relied on him and his kind of success in these conditions, and his unbelievable record. I think he's still averaging just under 50, isn't he, in Test matches? So yeah, unbelievable player, but they don't stay down for long.
No, they don't. 1-1, 2 tests done, and so far I think it's turning into it's got all the right ingredients to end up being one of the greatest Test series of all times. And I hope that England can at least get another one, either the 3rd or 4th test, because the 5th one will be dead by then anyway. But one of those two to kind of keep it really interesting and really engaged. Apparently Rajkot might be suitable for the Bazball mentality, but it's not exactly like India can't go out and play that game as well. So 3 tests to go, and so far it's been brilliant.